I mean, some of you already know me here, but how did I end up here? Well, it started long time ago. I was about 12 or 13 years old. That was the time when you start liking girls, at least for the most part. And testosterone was kicking in, and there was one girl I had a crush on in my class, but I was way too shy to go up to her. I didn't even know what to say. And so I decided to write a little love note, and I planned on giving it to her and running away. But I was still too shy to do that, right? So I was hiding it under my desk. And then eventually, of course, my classmates exposed me, and they gave it to her. And at first, I saw her from a distance. She was all happy. She was like, "Oh, who is it? Who likes me? Who likes me?" And then when she found out it came from me, she came up with this piece of paper and she looked at me and said, "Did you write this?" I'm like, all nervous. She goes, "Well, if you did, I mean, would you think I'm gonna go with you? Look at you, you're fat." And that was literally her words. "Look at you, you're fat." And so, as you can imagine, that was a slap in my face, right? Hurtful, yes, but now looking back, I'm actually grateful that she did that, because she changed my entire life. From that moment on, I wanted to know everything about nutrition, bodybuilding, fitness, how to burn fat, so nobody ever can say that to me. I lost about 20 pounds in 2 weeks. I was running every single day after school. I was eating 1 apple per day. I didn't know any better back then, and it worked. And also, I can't even tell you how many books I was reading about dieting and bodybuilding, like countless books. And then at some point, it also made it very easy then, to pick a topic, in college, which was nutritional science. And then I also applied, well, there's another important aspect. I witnessed my grandma deteriorating, in front of me. She had a stroke, and my mom had to take care of her. And so she was bedridden, and I saw her every single day. For the most part, she couldn't even recognize me. And that also created this fear, right? Like, is that gonna be me one day? That somebody's gonna change my diaper and I can't even talk no more or recognize my own family. That also created this, fear, you can say. But thank God it didn't affect me in a negative way. Thank God, I actually made something out of it, and I studied, and wanted to gain all the knowledge so that I'm not ending up like this. All right, so that's enough about me. Just so you know how I got started. Yeah, and then at 18, 19, I applied for foreign exchange student in the United States for season, which is the university in Northridge. I got denied, and then all of a sudden, after 4 years, I got approved, and it was like a dream come true. And then I left everything behind. Within 6 months, I was out of there, and I was, in the United States. And then from there, obviously, there were a lot of ups and downs, more downs than anything. But I continued my education in functional medicine, functional nutrition, and also lately, because of Sherry, also, energy healing, the quantum healing. And so now we're combining, both from the physical and from the spiritual aspect, and work on the healing aspect. All right, so let's get started. I made some notes here, otherwise I'm talking too much. All right, so let's start with the healthcare system. The way it's set up is, here in the United States, you have to be sick first before you can get any help. You have to be sick first with one of the age-related diseases, such as cancer, heart disease, dementia, Alzheimer, and the list goes on. And before you can get any help. As a matter of fact, if you're gonna do anything for preventative reasons, well, good luck, I tried. And insurance either doesn't pay for it or they put up a fight. And I went through this a few times, and it is the case. Even if you decide to pay cash, they still give you a hard time. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because we are at a time in history where it's actually so much easier to turn the clock back rather than waiting until you have some of those age-related diseases and then try to fight it off with, radiation and drugs and whatnot. Let's talk about aging. What is aging? We all know what it feels like, and we all know what it looks like, but what is happening on a cellular level? Why? And the big question is, do we have to age? Well, we'll see what you're going to say after at the end. Well, aging is a software issue. It's a loss of information. If you boil it down, it's a loss of information due to entropy. In the same way, as an analogy, if I would tell my imaginary friend here a story, then he repeats the story to another friend, and then that friend repeats the story to another friend, and so on. We all know well enough after go through 50 people that my original story will be distorted. There will be some degree of distortion, in the message, and our epigenome that controls methylation, the aging process, loses its information in the same pattern, for better understanding. And then what else we have? Oh, and there's two ways on how we measure aging. First we have the chronological aging, which is, according time, which in my opinion will change in the near future, mark my words, because in my way it's very primitive, like how many times Earth goes around the sun, determines your age. A more accurate way is, which we have the opportunity these days, is the biological age, which we can measure very accurately these days. As an example, Dr. Horvath, that also happens to be from Austria, he's a professor at UCLA. He created the Horvath clock. So with that clock, it measures 353 methylation markers in your genome, and also we check methylation, hormones, oxidative stress, and also the telomeres. Back in the days we used to look at the telomeres only just to determine the aging process. Now we know it's actually multifaceted. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's still a good indicator to get you a good estimate. But with this method, right, we can very accurately tell your real biological age right now. So as an example, I'm sure you know at least one or two people in your life, let's say they're 40 years old, but they look like 30, or they look like 55. Now, if they look either older or younger, they literally are either younger or older. And many times when I did the DNA methylation test on those people, most of them were actually a few years older. Yeah, only two of them were actually a couple of years younger. And then after I put them through a 6-month program, they reversed the aging by like 3 years. So it goes really fast when you do it the right way. Oh, and there's another way. Like, we even are so far ahead. If I would take your blood, I can very accurately tell you when you die. Now that means that, you might say, I don't know when I'm dying. Well, if I tell you, hey, you have 10 years to live, but hey, sorry, there's nothing I can do. You got 10 years by. But if I tell you, hey, with the current lifestyle up to that date where you took the test, you have 10 years left. But if you do some changes in your life, you can extend it to another 20 or 30. And that's where it really comes into, because we are at a time where this is actually possible. And there's two types of information in our DNA. 20%, for better understanding, is digital, which means it's set in stone, it cannot be changed. But we found out that 80% is epigenetics. And epigenetics responds to nutrition, environment, love, community, having a great social life, having a positive outlook in life. All that expresses itself in your genome. And so what that means is, if you translate it, that 80% on how fast you age, on how fast you get those age-related diseases, is in your hands. Now think about this. 80% is in your hands. So that was a friend of mine back in Austria, like a little guy. He always played the victim, oh, I'm a victim of my genes, I've got bad genes, there's nothing I can do, it's not my fault, it's bad genes. Well, back then, I didn't have all the knowledge, but now looking back, yeah, he was only right for about 20%, and 80% is epigenetics, which means it's in your hands on how fast you're going to age. Before we start with the slideshow, let's talk about our epigenome. The epigenome is what controls methylation and the aging process. But for better understanding, let's say the epigenome is like a DVD player. Anybody here knows a DVD player, right? Because some of the young kids don't know no more. So a DVD player is, let's say, let's explain it like this. At certain times, this song has to play in this cell, and then other times that song has to play in that cell. And if the right music comes on at the right time in cells, the genome can read the information, the instructions, and they know what to do. But what happens, when the CD has scratches? Because aging is like scratches on a CD. And now the genome has a hard time reading, the information on the CD. It might be distorted, or sometimes it even skips the song. Now how that translates in our genome is, we have seen, and it's actually easy to measure, that a nerve cell or skin cell lights up in the brain. And it shouldn't even be there. But that tells you how fucked up our methylation can get over time. And that, in a nutshell, is the the hallmark of aging and why we get, so many age-related diseases. Because if you think about it, in my opinion, aging is a disease. Because all the diseases come, as we age. There's nothing, when we're young, we can do anything to the body, it's not happening. Why? Because the genome can read the right instruction, everything's working perfectly. All right, let's get started. All right, so I'm going to explain first a little bit about the basics, with the DNA and everything, so you understand, how everything works when we get to the longevity part. All right, so we know that the DNA is, creating those tiny proteins, and then the proteins make up the living cells, and the cells make up the tissue, and then the tissue makes up the organs and the bones and, the human body. And we're going to talk about DNA, genes, and mutation. So our DNA, as you know, is a long spiral, chain that's made out of those 4, nucleotides. That's basically like the steps of the ladder. And the base pairs are called A, C, T, and G, which we're going to talk about more in a little bit. And then genes, which have a huge impact in health and aging. A gene is a long stretch of a protein that codes for something. And usually there are typically between 300 to like 1 million of those nucleotide pairs. As an example, like this part, would be considered a gene. And that little tiny part, codes for, a function in your body. It's almost like the product code, on all the products in the store. That little code, the barcode, has every information about the product. When it's running out, when it expires, when you have to order new ones, what's in there, everything. All right, next is right here. All right, now there's a close-up of our DNA. And you might ask yourself, what's up with those red balls that's sitting on the surface of our DNA? Now, these are called methyl groups, and those methyl groups are made out of 1 carbon atom attached with 3 hydrogen atoms. And some of them already come, in the womb, and some of them later on. And if you're lucky, they stay with you for the rest of your life. They control methylation. Remember the analogy we just used, which gene has to turn on and off, right? Or like which song has to play at the right time. These are the ones that regulate all that. And then you see here those green things. Those are the histone molecules where the DNA tightly wraps around. Sometimes they lose up and sometimes they tighten up. And they also help with gene silencing, which we will talk about in a little bit more. All right, so here you can see a chromosome. On the left you can see it looks like the chromosome is trapped, the DNA is trapped in the chromosome, which is not really how it looks like, because the entire chromosome, if you unwrap it, is your DNA. And here you can see, the entire string, unwrapping it, the DNA with the histone molecules. And then if you have another close-up, the string itself, is your entire DNA. Now, keep in mind, those are microscopic. If I would stretch out one of your chromosomes, it would be about 6 feet long. To put that in perspective, I'm only 5'10", so it would be, longer than myself. And I'm going to blow your mind again. If I would stretch out every single DNA in your body, it would go about 8 to 10 times from Earth to the moon, back and forth. Now wrap your mind around that. That's how much DNA we have in our body. All right, so here you have a chromosome from your mom and one from your dad. And if you compare it from the left to the right, all the genes are in the right place. However, if you see that, if it's not connecting, that's considered a mutation or a variation. To have another close-up of your DNA, you can see now that A always binds with T and G always binds with C. However, what happens if A would try to bind with C? As you can see, there's no connection, right? And so what happens is that could be a variation or mutation. So the difference is a variation is, rare, and a mutation, is, more common. And so that could be unique to you, or that could be from generation to generation. It could be something simple as having a blue eye and a brown eye. But the gene mutation we're going to talk about, which is probably the most important one that affects our health and aging, is the MTFHR, the methylene tetrahydrofolate gene. About 50% of the world's population have this gene mutation. And so what does it mean? That means, let me put it this way. Imagine, I take the crude oil out of the ground. and I put that in the gas tank in the car can do nothing with it, right? Because it needs to be converted, refined to gasoline. Well, in the human body, it's the same thing. You know, all the raw materials in the body need to be converted. And that gene is responsible for converting our nutrients to its usable form, so the body can actually use it. And if you have the gene mutation, if you're lucky, you only have, you know, one from your mom or from your dad, which is either the 677T or the A1298C. And if you're unlucky, you have both genes broken, you know, and then, yeah, you need to really change your diet and do something about your methylation. All right, so just to mention a few here, it's going to blow your mind. So when you have the gene mutation and you cannot convert, the most important nutrient for DNA methylation is methylfolate, right? But we have in our supplements, in our food supply, it's called enriched or fortified foods. We spray everything with folic acid. Now, folic acid is the synthetic form of methylfolate. You cannot find it anywhere in nature. It's made literally in the lab. And so if you don't have the mutation, you can easily convert it. You have the mutation, you cannot convert anything that's synthetic. So that's why when you consume supplements, you have to pay attention. Supplements are good, yes and no. Which means if you consume supplements that are methylated or from a natural organic, you know, form, then it's okay. But when you, and most people don't pay attention, they just look at the price. But when you buy supplements that are cheaper, right, and they are synthetic, you cannot make the conversion. Now what happens is, as an example, you have an accumulation of folic acid in the body, which is bad, and then at the same time you have nutrient deficiency because the body cannot, you know, convert it. So now you're thinking you're doing something good, but really you don't, because you have all those missing ingredients. And how does it expresses itself in the human body? These are some of the most common health conditions: ADD, ADHD, chronic fatigue, Alzheimer, autism, faster aging, you're more prone to addiction, pregnancy loss, thyroid dysfunction, Down syndrome, Hashimoto, weight gain, diabetes, infertility, headaches, cancer, migraines, high blood pressure, stroke, high homocysteine levels, depression. I mean, the list goes on and on. So that means when you have the gene mutation, you know, you probably have one or more of these issues. To put that in perspective, I had a client, the kid was 9 years old and got diagnosed with ADHD. And she noticed that every morning when the kid was drinking orange juice or was eating you know, the cereal, you know, it turned to a wrestling match to get the kid in school. Kid was all over the place, couldn't concentrate. And so, make a long story short, you know, they came to me and we did the test, and sure enough, we had the broken gene. So we had to remove all the fortified foods, and we had to give the kid all the supplements, you know, to support the methylation. And within 2 days, the kid improved. After 2 weeks, the kid got off the drugs, you know, and never really had, you know, this condition. The same is autism. We have so many misdiagnoses, you know, in the United States, which is insane. And put this in perspective. That's what it all comes down to. It all comes down to profit. When, let's say, you have an expensive, you know, rare plant at home, right? You paid thousands of dollars for the plant, and all of a sudden your plant, you know, the leaves are turning brown and sagging, and you see the plant is dying. You're like, oh my God, you know, and you're not a specialist, right? So what you're gonna do? You call a specialist, a pathologist, right? Now they come, you know, they look at the leaves are dying, right? Which is the symptom, right? Do you think they're gonna go and try to rescue the leaf? Or you think they're gonna go down to the root cause, you know, and check the soil if there's nutrient deficiency? What do you think is gonna happen? They're not paying attention to the leaf. They go right down to the soil, to the root cause. And once they identify, you know, the nutrient deficiency, and then they just add it, what happens? The leaf, the symptom, turns green again. So that means that our plants have a better healthcare system in place than we humans, because the way we, you know, attack any of these, we don't go down to the root cause. We just cover the symptom. Okay, you go to the doctor. If you're lucky, you get 15 or 20 minutes of your time, right? So you tell the doctor your symptoms and everything. The doctor is matching your symptoms with a health condition or disease, like a label, right? And once you label your condition, then it's matching it with a drug and sends you home. Bye, that's it. And so the funny part is, you know, it's just basically trying to you know, get the leaf from the plant, you know, green again, but the root cause issue is still there. Now, there's a few reasons why they don't do that. Number one is because it takes a long time. You know, if a client comes to me with a health issue, you know, and I start investigating, you know, it takes hours and hours. Doctors don't have the time. They don't get paid for that. You know, they get paid 60, 70 bucks for the visit, and then for the prescription drug, and then, you know, charge an insurance, you know, to make some extra money. If they would sit down at home after work, you know, and spend hours to see what is the root cause, what could happen with this person, they don't get paid for that. So why would they do that? So it's a sicker system, you know, really. And another example is with autoimmune diseases. You know, so many people get misdiagnosed with autoimmune diseases, and especially, you know, when it comes to lupus and stuff. You know, I have Caroline here. She can, you know, share her story, because she had health issues for so long. And then, make a long story short, when we identified that she had the gene mutation and we changed her nutrition and supplementation. Caroline, why don't you want to share what happened?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Caroline, and I was diagnosed about 5 years ago. It turned out that it was another type of autoimmune condition called Sjogren. And about 3 years ago, I started to feel more of the symptoms that are associated with an autoimmune condition. So I had a lot of fatigue, and my digestion was just getting worse. I started to have headaches, which I never really had. Also, just fog, a lot of issues, insomnia kicked in, and I was really concerned. So I decided to go to, you know, a typical doctor, and I was referred to a rheumatologist, and they put me on meds. And that wasn't really doing much for me. And then I was talking to Dave, and I reached out to him, and he put me on his protocol. And the first thing we did, besides from identifying that obviously I did have that gene mutation that he's talking about, we identified that the first thing I had to do was stop eating the foods that I thought were super healthy, but in fact were not agreeing with me. So the enriched foods that have folic acid had to go. I always had a bowl of oatmeal in the morning. I always had, at least to some degree, I had, you know, healthier bread, like the Ezekiel bread, or I had things that I thought were good. I had rice, and so all that had to go. And I can't tell you, within the first week, I felt like night and day. It was amazing. My allergies were basically gone. So it was just incredible, and it seems like every week it just keeps getting better and better. And one thing I did notice was that my mood is a lot more stable and lighter. I was starting to feel heavy for no reason and low for no reason, and it turned out that it was the food I was consuming. And I take all the methylation supplements that he. I feel a lot better.
And that's another good example. Like the most common symptoms is ADD and ADHD. So let me explain how it is. A healthy person, right? We don't think about this, but this is happening internally. You have a thought coming in, and then you dismantle the thought. Next thought is coming in, dismantle the thought, and so on. So you can carry a conversation, you can focus and remember things, right? But when you have the gene mutation, your brain works like this. Thought comes in, can't dismantle it. Next thought comes in, can't dismantle it. And now you have like 10 thoughts. You know, you're talking to a friend of yours, and you look at his jacket, and the logo reminds you, oh, I'm supposed to take a vacation. And your friend goes, oh, I forgot to tell you, you know, my grandma died. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. So you're like totally off. And that's exactly what happens with the kids, right? They can't focus in school, and then they put them on Adderall or Ritalin. So what's happening is, you know, they want to increase your nervous system to keep up with the fast pace of your brain. So that's why they give you amphetamines. But really what you're supposed to do is just calm everything down, not raising everything. And that's exactly, and it could be something, you'll be surprised how many times we've identified the MTFHR gene mutation and and all those health conditions disappear. Like, you'd be surprised. I've seen transformations, mind-blowing. Like, people like suffer from stuff like that for all their life, and they've taken drugs and nothing works. They're just covering the symptoms. Remember the leaf, right? But the root cause, going down the root cause, would be investigating if you have the gene mutation. And you can do a simple test to find out. And if anybody's interested with the testing, work with 10x Health. All right, so I want to emphasize, demethylation again, because it's so important. We don't talk about this stuff, especially not in healthcare. So methylation is basically, remember okay, let me explain this. The methylation in the body is like a traffic light, right? Let's say you have like millions of traffic lights in the body to regulate the traffic, right? So if the traffic light is working, it can smoothly, regulate everything, and everything is working. But what happens when the traffic light is dysfunction? Now, each car has to stop at the intersection, and let him go, and everything slows down. Worst case scenario, what if green comes on, on both sides? Boom, now everything is crashing. And that's what's happening in our body. And so those traffic lights, control which genes has to turn on and off, building and repairing DNA and RNA. It also slows down the aging process when everything is running smooth. And it reduces the risk of heart attack and stroke by 75%. And we bombard ourselves, with medication. And then it balances your homocysteine levels, which, by the way, is a great indicator. If you do a blood test and you constantly have elevated homocysteine level, then you most likely have the gene mutation. Also helps with maintaining good mental health, processes hormones, detoxifies the chemicals and heavy metals, also from the brain, fighting infection, building immune cells, and also balances your histamine. So that's why when you have like allergies, a lot, and heavy weight, there could be nothing else than methylation. And you ask yourself, oh, I moved to this city, all of a sudden I have this and I have that, right? Well, to some degree it is true, but if it's something you had all your life and you can't get rid of it, then you have to check your methylation. And then it supports neurotransmitters to prevent depression, anxiety, and mental health disorders. That's like like your brain is really heavily get affected by that when your genes are not turning on and off, if that's not regulated. And of course the most important is it works with vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids. So I'm gonna emphasize it here. The body needs raw materials to function in the same way that the car or anything, anything with an engine, right, needs the right liquids, the right ingredients to function. We take care of our cars better than our human body. So how do you expect that all this in the body is working, all the traffic lights are regulating your traffic, if you don't give the body the raw materials? And we're going to talk about this more in detail, like what kind of materials. All right, so imagine everything we just talked about, the methylation. These tiny balls, those methyl groups, control, the entire methylation process. So what can interfere with your methylation? Environmental factors, pollutants, which you live in a big city like Phoenix, is perfect for that. Chemical toxins, which we have on a food supply and a cleaning supply. Pesticides. Okay, let me say pesticides. Not too long ago, I was reading a new study about berries, non-organic berries. They want to see how much pesticides and insecticides is in there. So when they squeezed the juice and investigated the juice, there was so much pesticides in there, they could take the same juice and respray the crop. And that's what we consume every single day. And we know that glyphosate is causing cancer. So now and that's why I don't touch anything if it's not organic, especially berries. When it comes to fruits, right, the skin is like a sponge. Everything goes in the inside and we consume that. And then we have, already talked about the genetics mutations, so that's the MTFHR and some associated gene mutations. And then nutritional problems, which we're going to go into in a little bit. That could be a lecture on its own. There's so much to talk about. Then stress, like mental and physical. And then medications, antacids. Anybody taking antacid medications here, on and off? Nobody? No heartburn, nothing? Wow, that's impressive. Right, so antacid medication, interferes with methylation, but also When you constantly have heartburn, right, you think that you have a lot of stomach acid, but it's actually quite the opposite. When you have low stomach acid, for the most part, you don't even reach the acidity that's needed to close the esophagus lid, right? So here's the stomach acid, food comes in, it starts boiling, but the liquid is so low that the esophagus doesn't even get the signal to close. And for the most part, the acidity is off too. Now you're digesting the food, and the stomach acid is, splashing up your throat. And that's what you feel, as heartburn. And the only way to fix that is to increase your stomach acid. So the problem is, we take an anti-acid which kills the stomach acid even more. So you're actually adding to the problem, and you will never get out of there. And then that can cause nutrient deficiency in everything. If anybody ever has seen undigested food in their bowel, in their poop, that's a serious issue. And then there's methotrexate, which is a drug that's used for cancer, and then metformin, which is a diabetes drug. Yeah, that one actually is part of the longevity drug also. That one actually has unbelievable benefits. However, like the yin and yang, everything has to be in perfect balance, and you have too much. Nitric oxides, and then the antiseptants, which is like pills for infections. Yeah, and so the reduced hydrochloric acid, which we just explained. And then also, the aging itself, depending on how you treat your body, will also, affect, the methylation. And then, of course, diet, alcohol, and drugs. All right, let's get back to folic acid, because I think that's important. So we already identified when you have that MTFHR mutation, you have nutrient deficiency because you cannot convert, some of those important nutrients for DNA methylation. So we already know now how important the DNA methylation is. All right, so now you're like, oh, okay, well, I just, take some supplements, to replace it. But now you don't know there's a difference between folic acid and methylfolate. Now, most people just go for the price, right, and just get the cheaper crap. And then you consume folic acid. So what happens? So if you consume, folic acid supplements, studies have shown whether you have that gene mutation or not, it causes cancer. It increases, the cancer, especially prostate cancer. And you can find that in all the processed foods, multivitamins, some of the energy drinks, even some of the protein powders. You'd be surprised. All right, so and now that is the biggest issue here in the United States. We spray folic acid on our freaking food supply. Let me give you the history. It started in 1933, after the World War. And maybe back then they had I don't know, maybe it was for good faith because people were suffering, they had nutrient deficiency and everything, and they know that folic acid, methylfolate, is one of the most important nutrients for the human body for DNA methylation, the traffic light. And so they decided to spray, our entire food supply with that. If you consume this stuff, you get exposed to it every day. And remember, there's a 50-50 chance that you might have the mutation. And if you do, and you have some of those health issues we talked about, and you go to the doctor, they just take care of the leaf to cover the symptom. They never go down the root. Well, there are some doctors, they take their time, sure, but I'm talking about mainstream and the majority. And so if you eat breakfast cereals, bread, rice, now we're talking about white rice. However, if it's organic, they're not sprayed with folic acid, or let's say they shouldn't be. And so margarine, salt, snack bar, juices, baby formula. Now imagine, your baby has the gene mutation, right? And you feed the baby with the baby formula, right? That baby already gets bombarded with health issues with folic acid before it's even like grown up. And now and then the babies have like health issues, skin issues. I've seen like one of my neighbors, that baby has extreme, skin issues, but they're too stubborn, to look at it from a different point of view. They only listen to the doctor. And then also, edible oils, margarine, and meat alternatives. Okay, so this is, how you mess up your health and your methylation with fortified foods. Now, I say it again, if you don't have that mutation, it's okay, you can convert it. But again, why even exposing yourself to something that's made in the lab if you can have, for the same price, the methylated form? All right, now let's talk about what causes the scratches on the CD. What accelerates the aging process? Now let's get interesting. Well, like we said, same as with the methylation, environmental factors, pollutants, toxins, chemicals, pesticides, heavy metals. We are exposed to that every single day from our food supply, some of the cooking ware, even like seafood has a lot of heavy metals. Now this is important here. The deficiency in vitamins for the methylation, like remember what we said, the methylation needs raw materials, to fully function. Well, these are the most important ones. B12, I challenge you, go home and check all your vitamins. If it says B12 cyanocobalamin, that means your B12 is made out of cyanide. And I'm talking about the same cyanide we make chemical weapons and poison. Yeah, and it really comes down to freaking money again. It's more profit, it's cheaper, and probably they were able to put a patent on it. But never freaking take a, if you buy methylated B vitamins, you don't have to deal with that shit. Because these are the synthetic ones. These are made in the freaking lab. You can't find it anywhere in nature. And then we have folate, which is B9. So stay away from folic acid. You want to have folate, B9. B6 and then B2 and choline, which is not really a vitamin, but it's, you can find it in meat and in egg, great for methylation. And then TMG, known as trimethylglycine. That's an amino acid that has 3 methyl groups attached to it, which is perfect to support methylation. And then also SAMe, which I'm sure you heard about too. So these are some of the most important ones. And guess what? Guess which one is also important and you don't even have to take it? Sun. So sunshine is so important for your methylation, not just for vitamin D3, also for the methylation. That's why when you go in the sun, for a little bit and you come back, have you noticed that you feel good, you feel happy? Well, that's because the methylation is working. It turns on the traffic lights in the body, and everything is working smooth. And that's why, yeah, you feel good and happy. And so, next one is radiation. UV radiation from the sun, tanning bed, and X-ray. Well, again, with the UV radiation with the sun, the first 45 minutes of sunrise, there's no harmful UV radiation. So you can, run around naked, in the morning, and you not have any harmful UV radiation. However, we demonize the sun so much these days, which is crazy. We think, oh, sun causes cancer, wrinkles and this and that. Again, it comes down to balance. Sun is healthy, it makes you feel good. It helps with methylation. And imagine this, think about this. Vitamin D3 is the most important vitamin for the body. It is so important that your body can actually produce it on its own, but it needs the sunshine, right? So that should tell you something. That's the only vitamin a human can make on its own. So that should tell you how important it is. So if you have deficiency in that, you have a lot of issues, and you're probably not even aware of it. And so for the people that don't go to the sun, they're afraid when they step out of the car, to go to the shopping center and running like that. I'm telling you, there's also a process called hormesis, which means short stressors, right, on the skin or whatever. The body has to respond to it and make you strong and thicker. I know that when people come into the clinic and they avoid the sun at any cost, their skin is so thin, it's crazy, like so thin it almost looks like a see-through. And so sun, is actually good for that. We don't want to get burned every day. Sunburn, that causes DNA damage, yes. But a little bit of sun, here and there is actually good. Tanning bed, again, comes down to balance. But for sure, you should avoid X-ray. X-ray cuts through the DNA like there's no tomorrow. I always hate it when you go to the dentist and they do an X-ray and then they mess it up, they have to do it again. I'm like, it's like, you're causing all the DNA damage, my skin, and then you get the sagging. So I know they want to make the money, with the expensive machine. And that, more important, okay, so this could be a lecture on its own. Nutrition that accelerates aging. The perfect way is the standard American diet. If you eat that every day, you age quicker and you get those age-related diseases quicker, much quicker. And here's why. They're full of sugar, full of processed chemicals. Here in America, we have something that's called a single-dose toxicity. which means if you introduce a chemical, whatever, that's banned anywhere else in the country, I mean, in the world, we introduce it to food supply for one time. Oh, you didn't have a side effect? Okay, perfect. We can add it to our food supply. And that's why we have about more than 400 chemicals in our processed food that are illegal anywhere else in the world, because we go by single dose toxicity. So as an example, you take a little bit of mercury once, no side effect. Okay, we can add it in the vaccines and everything. And then, you know, in Europe, you take it like 5-6 days in a row, and then you get sick. Oh, we cannot do it. Don't ask me why we do that here, but that's what's going on. And then we have foods that are high in AGEs. Have you heard about advanced glycation end products before? Nobody? You know, that's another thing that surprises me that's not talked about, you know, more. Because advanced glycation end products is, we have that naturally in the food, you know, very little in like plant food, more in like, you know, fatty like meats and dairy products. But really what you accelerate the entire process is on heat and how to cook the food. The more heat, the more of those AGEs you have. Let's say a steak. Like, how good is a steak when it's, you know, nice and brown? You know, it tastes good. You know why it tastes good? Because the chemical process that's happening is when it turns like, you know, brown or black, is it caramelizes. It creates those like sugar molecules, right? And then the sugar molecules, when you eat it, you know, binds with fat and protein in the blood, and they start glycating, like malforming, crystallizing, if you will. And then they get deposited into your skin, and they break the collagen and the elastins, and you get sagging skin. And here's the interesting part. You know, I had a client that's the same age, 60 years old. One never really ate a lot of sugar, and one every single day. I mean, the skin, the difference is like day and night. You know, one still at 60, you sure some wrinkles, but skin was still tight. And the other one, everything was hanging. And there's no gene, by the way, that says, oh, you're gonna have, you know, sagging skin when you're like 50 or 60, right? It really all comes down to this. And then sugar itself. Sugar itself is already sugar, right? So again, it gets into your blood supply and it binds with, you know, proteins and fats and starts glycating. Now, you can look that up. When you eat sugar every single day, you age 7 times quicker. And I'm not just talking about, you know, breaking down the skin, the collagen, everything. I'm also talking about all the oxidative stress and inflammation. Because we know the more sugar you have in your bloodstream, you know, the more you accelerate the aging process and also age-related diseases. And then, and we already talked about processed food, you know, all the chemicals, but that's an interesting one, fast food. And you probably don't know about fast food, like, not, at least not in that way. Fast food is cheap, right? So that means they have to make money by you coming back or eat as much as they can. Well, they did something very smart. Well, first of all, they took all the fibers out from, you know, all the food, which means it doesn't keep you satiated. You know, you can eat more. But really, where they were genius, they added chemicals in the sauces that temporarily break the signaling pathway called leptin, which, you know, gets released from the fat cell and tells your brain, hey, stop eating, I'm full. Have you noticed when you go to a fast food restaurant that you can eat and you don't get that full feeling? I mean, the last time I was there was a long time ago, and as a kid, I could eat like 8 or 9 burgers. And I was like, man, I don't get that full feeling. I couldn't eat them more because I already so stuffed, right? But I never get that satisfaction feeling. Well, now I know why. And that's how they make the money. And then next one is drugs and alcohol. Well, I think there's not much to talk about, right? Drugs, you know, for the most part, are uppers, you know, damage, you know, oxidative stress, damage your liver. Also, it depletes, you know, some of the vital nutrients, especially minerals, and messing up your sleep. Anybody here drinking red wine or like alcohol before they go to bed? Man, it's like so healthy people in here. Nobody? Sometimes. There you go. Do you think you get a better sleep when you drink alcohol to knock yourself out?
No, I don't use it to knock myself out. I'm just saying sometimes I'll have a glass and then it's...
But do you think, my question is, do you think you feel better, like you sleep better when you wake up the next day?
It depends on how much. I mean, for
Well, obviously it depends on the. Well, let me tell you something. What's happening internally? When you drink alcohol, the body recognizes it poison, right? And so the body tries to get that out as much as possible. So now it might knock you out quicker, right? Knocks you out, you sleep. But what's happening internally, it raises your nervous system, you know, the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, in danger to get everything out. So as you sleep, all that internal processes are happening. So you cannot get a deep REM sleep, impossible. And so that means the body cannot recover, rejuvenate, and repair. And that's why you wake up the next day like, fuck, I slept 8 hours and feel so, tired. And again, it depends on how much you drink, if you're used to it. And that's also, why you have hangovers the next day. And then sleep deprivation. Again, if you don't sleep, okay, let me emphasize that, how important is sleep? If you would ask me, hey, is there one thing that can improve my health and longevity? Just one thing that is for free. I would say sleeping. That's how important it is. It doesn't matter what supplements you take. It doesn't matter what treatments you do. If you don't sleep, you cannot, recover. So it messes up your immune system. It lowers your immune system, so you're more prone to sickness. It also activates the stress response. The nervous system goes up because you don't sleep. That's why you would nervous the next day. And also impairs your tissue repair and the healing. Also messes up your gut. And remember, the gut is the gate to your health, because it distributes all the vital nutrients. And then also insulin resistance and all the metabolic dysfunction. All right, we don't have no bodybuilding here, good. Well, next one is anabolic steroids and HGH. We used to think that HGH, human growth hormone, was the fountain of youth, remember? So when I was living in LA, when I made good money, I could afford it. I was taking HGH like 2 units a day for 4 years straight. Now I had no pain, I was recovering quicker, great. But now we actually know that the exposure to anabolic steroids chronically activates mTOR, which stands for mammalian target of rapamycin. And some of the best anti-aging drugs are actually based on that, to suppress mTOR. What is mTOR? mTOR gets activated after a workout. It activates protein synthesis, which means cell growth, regeneration, proliferation, all that stuff. So it's important after workout, right? It's also a signaling. It responds to amino acids, in particular leucine from the BCAAs. When you take leucine and you want to gain muscles, you activate mTOR, right away. Now, it's good because you build muscles quicker, right, and recover quicker, but it's not so good in the long run. I'll talk about this more in a little bit. And the same with HGH. So anything that activates cell growth, if you boil it down to formulation, cell growth equals aging. Look at a baby. When the baby's cells are growing, you can see the baby, it's growing, so it's aging. And that explains, why so many professional bodybuilders these days don't make it past 50. Because, they just age so fast internally, they have no idea. But also externally, some of my friends, when they started, taking steroids like 6-7 months straight, and they were in their 20s, I could literally see how much older he got. So again, it also comes down, to have a healthy balance. But mTOR, you just wait when we get to the longevity pathways, then you have a better understanding. But that is something we want to suppress if you don't need it, and activate it if needed. And don't activate it when you don't need it, just because of building muscles and stuff. Oh, wait. Oh, then chronic stress. That's that long-acting, chronic stress that interfere with cellular signaling, pathways. It also has the cells have a hard time taking up enough oxygen and nutrients, and so when cell function goes down, everything else in the body goes down. Increases your inflammation, and overall, it just messes you up because of that. Then on the right, inflammation. Inflammation, which probably, I think 80% of Americans have. If you consume a lot of processed food and sugar, you have inflammation in the body. And you should do the blood test, CRP, which is the best marker for inflammation in the body. That one should be close to 0 at all time. And only if you have an infection, like a lung infection stuff, it pumps it up, it's normal. But then I had a lung infection, I was like a year and a half ago, and I did the test a week later, and my CRP was on 15, scared me, because like if that stays at 15, that high at all times, the chances of you getting a heart attack goes up by 10. And so yeah, that one needs to be low. And that could come from poor dieting, sedentary lifestyle, obesity, smoking, alcohol, drugs, environmental factors, and chronic infections. All right, now we talk about the longevity pathways. Now pay attention to that one, because all the anti-aging, all the longevity is based on this, because some of these pathways we want to activate, and some of the pathways you want to temporarily deactivate, such as mTOR. Anybody knows of autophagy, right? I'm sure you heard that before. So autophagy is basically, when the cells eat themselves, when there's an emergency. Let me explain. I'll give you another analogy. Imagine here I'm talking to you. I'll give you good information, and you're happy and everything. But imagine my brain and my organ all of a sudden are done. I'm just like wasting your time, looking stupid, don't do anything to contribute to society. I'm just here, right? And just bothering people. That is what a senescent cell is. The senescent cells linger around, interfere with healthy cellular functions, and some of them even release some of those harmful chemicals and interfere with other cells. And so when you have an accumulation of those senescent cells, heart disease, cancer, faster aging, a lot of it. And let me show the next one. So here you see the organelles, which are the organs of the cells. So how the process works, you have those senescent cells, those zombie cells, if you will, and when the body is in a preserve mode, in an emergency, because there's no nutrition coming in, right? Let's say, usually autophagy turns on after 2 days of fasting. That's when the body is in the emergency mode, and then it starts repairing and preserving itself. And by the way, everything I show you now, all this adversity stuff, right? I'm just repeating something we have done for thousands and thousands of years. This is nothing new. We just have forgotten it because we're so messed up in our society. We always want to be comfortable, never cold and never hot, and always have a full belly, never like suffering. And that is exactly why we age so quick and we have so many diseases, because adversity turns on those survival mechanisms. And as long as if you're never hungry, you never sweat, you're never cold, you're never hot, you'll never activate them. And so what happens is, when the cells start renewing, you have this little, lysosome, this pouch, right? It has powerful enzymes. So imagine there's another person coming to me and, hugging me, right? For like a minute, let's say. And now, it's giving me all the energy that my entire organs, my brain is, rebuilding again. Now the person goes away, I'm like, I'm functioning again. That's exactly what's happening here with the lysosome. It releases those powerful enzymes and it recycles your organelles, and the cells are functioning again, which is quite amazing. I wish we'd have that with our brain. I'm not talking. All right, next one are the sirtuin genes. There are 7 of those sirtuin genes in your cells. They also get activated. Now remember, everything I show you now, autophagy, sirtuins, they all somehow interact with each other, which is great. Sirtuin genes, I call them the immune system of your cells. There are 7 of them, and they're placed in different parts, which I'll show you in a second. Now, when they get activated, they help with improving energy, with mitochondria. They also help with repairing your cells and your DNA. Like when you get exposed, to sun, you get a sunburn, you have DNA damage. They get activated and they repair it. And then sirtuin 6 is directly responsible for healthy aging. And so you want to activate that one as much as you can. And then also improves insulin sensitivity and fat burning, brain function, and also improves like stress resilience and reduces inflammation. And here to get a better idea, here you can see a cell, and here you can see those sirtuin genes, how they are distributed throughout the cells. Some in the nucleus, some in the mitochondria, some in the matrix, and so on. And they get activated through adversity. Fasting, sports, being cold, being hot, Just be uncomfortable. Don't be comfortable, you know, every single day, because you will never activate those. All right, so then next one is the AMPK. Stands for endocyne monophosphate activated protein kinase, which is a mouthful. This is the master switch to regulate all energy pathways in the body. When that one only gets activated when your energy drops. How does your energy drop? Well, either you work all day, or you exercise, or you eat less, or you don't eat at all. Then it's activated. How it works is, the process is AMP activates ATP. And ATP we know is our #1 cellular, you know, energy. And so they activate AMPK. Hey, we're running out of energy. We're low. Come on, help us, right? And then that master switch is responsible to go anywhere into the body to get the energy from there. As an example, it can activate through AMP. It can activate mitochondrial biogenesis, which means it can make new mitochondria, and mitochondria makes new ATP, so you have more energy. And that explains, like, when you train, like you run like 3 miles, the week after you run, you know, 4 miles and 5 miles and more. That's only possible because your body creates mitochondria that gives you more energy. And here you can see, you know, AMPK also activates fat burning, because fat is nothing else than stored energy. It's like a battery we carry with us, and only when needed in emergency purposes we will tap into that and get it out. And also, like the liver, you never have to worry about, you know, eating sugar, because there's a process called glycogenesis, which means the liver can convert and make its own, you know, sugar. And also insulin, you know, it can activate insulin to get, you know, the glucose, the energy from there. Also, you have glycogen storage in the liver, in the muscle, and if there is any left, it can also tap in from there. And also, when food is coming in, you know, AMPK immediately can switch and get the energy from the food. So literally, the AMPK is the switch that can take the energy from where it's available, you know, at this very moment. Oh yeah, and AMPK also, as a side effect, activates the sirtuins and also activates autophagy. So as you can see, they're all interact with each other, and that's why we have all those health benefits. All right, now let's dive in a little bit more about the mTOR we already talked about. So on the right side, you know, you can actually see how complicated the process is, you know, on a cellular level when mTOR gets activated. It's actually, you know, stupid, crazy, complicated. I mean, the way our cells are working, I mean, I don't even think we fully understand 100% today how our cells are working. That's how complicated it is. But mTOR is basically, remember, you know, gets activated through exercising, you know, for muscle growth and proliferation and everything. But it's also like a nutrient regulator. So when amino acids are coming in, it activates mTOR, especially leucine from the BCAAs. But also, when you are pre-diabetic and you have tons of glucose floating around in the body, and insulin is suppressed and cannot take all the insulin or the glucose out. Now you have too much glucose floating, more than a regular healthy person. And so what happens is, now mTOR gets activated also because of the higher glucose in the body. And remember, you know, it ages you quicker. The sugar does, mTOR activation does, breaks down the collagen, speeds up the aging process, and you get age-related diseases. Yeah, again, when it comes to mTOR, cell growth equals aging. When your cells are growing, you age quicker. When you eat a lot of sugar, a lot of glucose, and your insulin is impaired, which a lot of people do because we just bombard our body with so much sugar every day, then you have too much glucose floating around. mTOR also gets activated. When you eat amino acids, you know, proteins, all the meat and stuff, you have leucine, also gets activated. And then we also have supplements, you know, BCAAs. So, I mean, you can activate your mTOR quite a bit. Now, on top of that, you add some steroids, you know, to build muscles. Now you have chronically activated mTOR. And you might look good and feel good for like a few years, but let me show you something. Every single study has shown when mTOR is chronically activated, you shorten your lifespan. So what happens is when mTOR is activated, that's the time when everything is good, we have enough food, and we can grow. So that means autophagy can never occur. When mTOR is activated, autophagy is impaired. And we know when autophagy cannot happen, you have the accumulation of the senescent cells, and they cause DNA damage, cancer, heart disease, brain disease. I mean, the list goes on. And so that's why it's important to fast a little bit. But there's a good thing too, because these days we can activate autophagy without fasting for 2 days. And that's where those longevity supplements come in. And so, muscle growth equals aging. This is really what it comes down to. The last time I had some bodybuilders in here, they walked out. And it bothered me too, trust me. I looked and looked and looked. I could not find anything to, say something in a positive way. There's just nothing there. In all the animal studies have shown, mTOR is chronically activated, 20%, 25%, cut from your life. Now, do we know 100% that's also with humans? No, but we can measure internally, that things, the methylation, the organ oxidative stress, that you age quicker. So, yeah, I wish I could tell something else, but that's what it really looks like. And see all those anti-aging drugs these days, rapamycin, for an example. Rapamycin is probably the #1 drug on the market to suppress mTOR. The second would be metformin. Rapamycin is a drug they give you when you have an organ transplant to temporarily suppress your immune system. And they find out, that it suppresses mTOR, and people and all the animals and people live longer, and that's how it started. So if we already know that when mTOR is suppressed that we live longer, then obviously this is the truth. All right, the next one is this enzyme, CD38 enzyme, starts accumulating in the body around your cells, on the surface of your cells. They increase with age. We don't fully understand why, but this is what we know so far. It increases because of inflammation in the body. And again, you have an unhealthy lifestyle and eat sugar, you have inflammation. And all that they're highly expressed in inflamed cells. And also, increases as a result of stress and oxidative stress. So CD38 is responsible for calcium regulation inside the cells, and also to regulate NAD. NAD is the #1 energy source for our energy, for our cells. If your body wouldn't produce NAD, you'd be dead in 30 seconds. And here you can see that that the CD38 starts accumulating, and that also is a theory why when we get older, we lose so much energy. And it's not because of the aging process itself. We just say, I'm getting older. No, that's not the case. It's because there's something happening internally, and it's because of the CD38s are depleting, your NAD. And the more unhealthy lifestyle you have, the more inflammation you have, the more of those you have, and the more you sap your energy. And so, that one we want to, balance out. We want to control. But there's a happy ending to all that. There's something you can do about it. All right, what activates the longevity pathways? All right, remember we talked about adversity. Something we have done for thousands of years. We have forgotten it. It's so stupid to even talk about this because we've done it for so long, and now we're so smart, and all the new technology we have, and we're really reintroducing something we have done for thousands of years. First we have sauna. Expose yourself to heat. I mean, here in Arizona, we don't have the problem with that. There's something, they're called heat shock proteins in the cells. When they get activated, they only get activated when you expose yourself to high heat. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be in high heat all day long. Even just 10-15 minutes a day, activate has those benefits. That's why going in a sauna or in a cold plunge back and forth, anybody has done that before, you feel so good. I mean, and the energy you have and the alertness is amazing. And here's why, you know, when those heat shock protein get activated, it protects your cells. And also great for, you know, stress reduction, great for circulation because it's a vessel dilator. And then also for detoxification, because a lot of those toxins, you know, sit in our skin, so they get pushed out, sweating it out, clears your skin. And also anybody that has done sauna before, you sleep like a baby at night. And then we also have, you know, it speeds up your metabolism. Now, if you go in a sauna or in a cold plunge in a fasted state, guess what happens? The body needs energy from somewhere, right? So you burn fat, especially in a cold plunge. You'd be surprised how much energy the body requires to either cool you down or to heat you up. And cold plunge, again, that counts for everything. The process is called hormesis, where you put your body under short stressors, controlled stressors, and the body has to adapt to it. You know, and adaptation means it has to improve your function, your body. Same with the muscle, right? You train, you're breaking down the muscle. You know, now the body has to respond to it and makes the muscle bigger and stronger. Same with the skin. You do microneedling or laser treatments, right? Now you causes micro damage, and now your skin, the body has to respond to it. And it has to make it, you know, better and thicker and more collagen. That's really the secret when it comes to this. And then what else we have? Oh, cold plunge also activates, helps with autophagy, especially if in a fasted state. To put that in perspective, 11 minutes of cold plunge burns about 280 calories. Anybody that does cardio, it takes about 30 minutes on a stepper or stairmaster to burn that amount of calories. You can burn that in just 11 minutes. Now, obviously, it's not easy to stay 11 minutes, you know, in there for non-stop. But you know, what I've done is like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, like back and forth. That's how many calories you burn. And that's why afterwards you're freaking starving. You're hungry. And so also, you know, great for reducing the inflammation, for muscle recovery, and yeah, the good thing is that's why you feel so good, because it releases endorphins when you go in a cold plunge, and also adrenaline. That's why you have so much energy afterwards. When you do a cold plunge and sauna back and forth, always finish with the cold plunge because the amount of energy you have is insane. The last time I did it, I was at the gym already. Then I did the cold plunge and sauna like 6-7 times back and forth. Man, I had so much energy. I went home, I cleaned my entire place. It was 7 o'clock at night. I didn't know what to do with myself. So I'm back to the gym and did another hour of training. That's crazy. I mean, coffee or any energy pill doesn't even come close to that. That's because, you know, it's your own, you know, energy, your adrenaline that gets activated. And then we have exercise. So exercise activates mTOR, you know, for protein synthesis, which we already know. But there's something that's very interesting. People that do sports, you know, we perceive as looking younger and fresh, right? And here's why. Because it activates telomerase, which is an enzyme that controls your telomeres. The telomere is like at the end of the chromosome, like the shoelaces, right? That keeps your DNA together. And back in the days, we used to measure the length of the telomeres, you know, like, okay, how much you have to live. Again, we know now it's more complicated, but exercises, you know, maintenance your telomeres. And also inflammation. Now there's bad inflammation and there's healthy inflammation. Inflammation is only bad if it's long grade inflammation. Short inflammation is good. I was just reading a new study after exercising. So when you train, you get the muscles inflamed, and it actually helps you to build muscle. And so they did a study. They wanted to see what is the difference if people go in a cold plunge right after the, you know, workout. And it has shown, because it inhibits the inflammation, those people were actually gaining less muscles than the other group. That's very interesting. So inflammation can be unhealthy but also healthy. And then also stimulates antioxidants defense, and also remember it activates AMPK, or you know, or energy, you know, master switch. And also it activates what's really AMPK that activates, you know, you exercise, your energy drops. Then of course AMPK is forced to activate, and AMPK is the master switch to take the energy from, you know, all over the place. And also if the demand of energy is high, then AMPK activates you know, making new mitochondria. And so exercises has all those benefits. Next one is calorie restrictions. Every single, let me repeat that, every single study has shown that when you eat about 20, 25 less, when there's a way to calculate it, if you eat about 20% less, like in a calorie deficiency of 20%, every freaking study has shown without a fail that you live longer. And let me give you the science, why. So first of all, when your energy drops, the body is, asking for more energy. We already know it activates, MPK activates the sirtuins, which are the immune system of our cells, and some of them, SIRT6 is directly responsible for healthy aging. That is one thing, but common sense. The biggest stressor we put on our body every single day, do you know what it is? We do it every day, multiple times a day, is eating. We don't think about that, but it takes so much energy to digest the food, to get that chicken, down to the smallest molecule, like an amino acid, and then go through entire body, and subtract all the nutrients and distribute it throughout the body, and then the rest leaves your, anus. You know how much energy the body needs just for that? Let me put that in perspective. We have 100% of energy, right? Now you start eating, 40 goes, right to digesting food. So you only have 60 left. So that means if you eat all day long, multiple times a day, and there's some people that even go eat before they go to bed, and the first thing they get up to eat again. So they're never really in a real fasted state, which means their engine never gets a break. What do you think is going to happen if you have your car running every day, even when you park the car, that you never turn off the engine? Would you agree that the life expectancy of the car goes down? Well, that's exactly what you're doing with the body. It's the more you eat, and never have any fasting breaks, you age quicker and get age-related diseases because the body cannot recover. When you have a flu, why do you think that you're not hungry? It's because Mother Nature already has that built in that it inhibits ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, so that you don't eat, so the body can take all that energy to heal and to recover. That's why you should never force feed yourself when you're sick, and eat. Like my mom always used to say, oh, you're sick, you have to eat, so get healthy. I know she meant it in a good way, but it's the total opposite you're supposed to do. And then, fasting, again, whether it's calorie restriction or fasting, it's very similar, right? You put your body under a short, stressor. So when it comes to fasting, there's different ways. You can fast for days, or you can fast intermittent fasting, which I do, every single day, and sometimes I'm throwing like 24 hours. Let me tell you, the first 24 hours is the hardest. The second day, the third, the fourth day, the body, the brain adjusts so much to it, you're not even hungry anymore. You don't even want to eat no more. Let me tell you a story. There was a terminally ill cancer patient that told me he has 6 months to live. Obviously, when you get that message, at this point, you're like, I'm willing to do anything. What was the point, right? And they followed him with the camera. It was on YouTube for a while. It was a documentary, but I can't find it no more. I wonder why. He fasted for 25 days. The only thing he did was water fast and going to the beach, sunshine. We already know about sunshine, right? Methylation turns on the traffic light, better function in the body. You don't eat, which means the body can heal and repair. And he was just drinking water. That's it. 25 days, they were following every day with the camera. His cancer was completely gone. And then when they did a full checkup on him, not just the cancer was gone, his entire body internally rejuvenated. And then, if I wouldn't have believed it when I wouldn't have seen it, after 25 days, when they gave him his first meal, he had so much energy, he ran non-stop for 25 miles. That was crazy. Now, but that tells you, we're so indoctrinated, we're so brainwashed to believe, like Sherry, that it's so complicated. I healed 2 cancer patients already. Now, well, one, the other one is remission, but he's going to be healed too. It is not that difficult. See, that's why I didn't want to go down the route and go to medical school, because they indoctrinate you and brainwash you. Oh no, this is not possible. It's like, no, it is possible. It's not that complicated. I don't want to be part of that indoctrination system, to give more profit to Big Pharma. And yeah, I mean, I can only base my success and knowledge on 3 cancer patients. One I just started 4 weeks ago, and she did an MRI, brain cancer, and it did not grow, which is good. And the second one was a 75-year-old from Sedona, and he had lung cancer, stage 3A, was almost going to stage 4, 3 lumps. And I put them through a program, and within about 15 months, well, we already noticed that it was shrinking but quick, right? And then he was all happy. He fell off the program because he thought that, oh, it's shrinking, I can even go back. And then in the next MRI, it was growing again. So he had to realize, oh, it is really the food. It is really the oxygen in the body, the fasting and all that stuff, right? And then after 4 or 5 months, it really clicked because he had the proof that it is working. And then he stayed on it. And after 15 months, it was cancer-free. I can even show you the text message from the daughter.
I have to add something here. According to the government, and you know it's according to the government, you're fucked. You know that.
Yeah.
That this year it's predicted that 2 million people will die of cancer, or 2 million people will get cancer, and 600,000 will die. And that's what he's doing, or I'm doing, because all they care about is your money. And I know
Yep.
I have lots of our clients, but what you're saying is absolutely the truth. They're counting on you getting sick. And of course, funeral directors are making money hand over fist.
Well, the thing about this, if we really would care about the people, I always like to bring up this example again with the plants, right? When the leaf is dying. Our entire healthcare system is based on the leaves, not on the root cause. There's only a few they actually go down the root cause and find out why is the leaf dying, right? Our entire system is based on the symptoms. Why? Because of money, of profit. Because if I go down to the root cause, first of all, it takes a lot of time investigating. But if I would find out what caused that leaf to die, and I heal it, there's no medication needed anymore. It's a messed up system, but it's the truth.
And that's why we're changing it.
That's why we're trying to change it, yeah?
We're not trying, we're doing it.
All right, so this is the happy part now. The longevity supplements. All right, a little recap. Remember, everything in longevity is based on those 80%, right? The epigenetics, again, which responds to nutrition, lifestyle, love, community, all that stuff, right? Affects 80% of your expression of your genes. So that means if you're mentally messed up, depressed, not happy, hating life, hating your job, that will age you much quicker, and you introduce all those age-related diseases and whatnot. That is not science fiction, that is science. And we know that the placebo effect is working, right? And that was an interesting study, actually with cancer patients too. They told one group, they had cancer, and they told them, that's like, look, you are lucky, we did your blood test, and you actually fall in those 5%. We have a new drug that 99.9% heals you, and you're the lucky one because you have the perfect, the right blood type for that. Would you like to try it? Oh my God, of course, yeah. So they told that about 50 people with that case, right? And interesting enough is they didn't give him anything. They just gave him a freaking, I don't know, like a placebo, like I wouldn't say sugar, but something like a supplement, right? And guess what happened? They believed in that so much, they freaking healed themselves. That's where it comes in.
I just interrupt because what you're saying is correct. Did you know that about 20 years ago, they took a group of children and they told the teachers that they were learning disabilities and they treated them like shit, to put it bluntly. I have no, it's swear words work because it rounds your molecules. And they took that same group and told the other teacher they were brilliant. And guess what happened?
Yep.
Because you're giving your power away to the medical community and not judging them, but all they are, you are a commodity. You are a commodity. You are not a person.
Yeah, that is like the indoctrination and everything, right?
Yeah, it's indoctrination. So thank you. What you're doing, you have to get undoctrinated and keep your head out of your assets. So you don't keep going.
Yeah. And so here's the part that, you know, blew my mind. I want to say something here because, you know, most people don't even freaking know. We are about 10 max 15 years away to pop a pill and have negative birthdays. We already have done it in animals. In animals, you know, we can reverse the entire aging process, like, you know, years and years. So they did a testing. I think right now we actually do the human testing. You know, there is a pill, or like I don't like to say the vaccine because it has such a bad rap now, but but like a pill, right? Let's say the pill, and especially now because, you know, the FDA just approved the gene modulation. What's it called? Quick, CRISPR. You know, I was surprised that the FDA actually approved that. That was just like a month ago, which was like, wow, that will change everything. CRISPR is basically, remember when I showed you that little gene in the DNA? Okay, let's remember that, let's say that gene is responsible for some dysfunction in the body. Could be the heart, could be regrowing your hair or anything. Now, they cut that out from your DNA and introduce the synthetic one. And now that's fully functioning, and you can regrow everything, a new eyeball, a new skin, everything. And again, it could be used for good or for bad, like any technology. But it's amazing because it's a big game changer. So I'm curious what that is, you know, going. But what we have available right now is all this what I'm showing right now. The first is NMN, nicodynamide mononucleotide. All right, so this is a supplement that they just took off the market because it was working so well, and Big Pharma, you know, is making a prescription drug out of that. And so, I mean, if anybody needs a hookup, right? I work with all those, you know, legit companies. You know, you can sign up here, give me an email, and I'll send you the email with discount codes from those companies, and you can actually buy the real stuff. So NMN is a precursor to NAD. And we already know that NAD is the number one, you know, energy for our cells. So if that one helps you with energy production, DNA repair, cellular signaling, it improves the mitochondria, which is the, you know, energy, the powers of our cells, and also it activates the sirtuins, SIRT1 in this case, and also activates, you know, AMPK and increases autophagy. So as you can see, all those longevity pathways we talked about, you know, this supplement alone activates them. But now let me blow your mind. All right, so these mice are twins. As you can see, there's a big difference. Remember at the beginning where I said aging is like scratches on the CD? I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a lot of scratches on the CD. So, and when we take those supplements, what you do is you polish the CD, you know, so that the genome can read the instruction information again, so everything is functioning. And so these mice are the same age. One was fed with NMN and one was not, was aging naturally. Now that mouse, they put the mouse on a spinning wheel because they want to see how much energy they get, right? So the spinning wheel was set on 3 miles. If you think about it, I can even run 3 miles without stopping these days. And that little thing overran the program. You know, at first the scientists came in, it's like, oh damn, you know, the spinning wheel is broken. And the other guy goes, no, wait, wow, the mouse overran the program over 3 miles. That never ever happened before ever. For a mouse to run 3 miles without stopping is like unheard of. That's how much energy they got from taking that NMN, that supplement. The next one is polyphenols. I'm sure you heard about that before. Those are, you know, plant chemicals. They get created when the plants are stressed. How do plants get stressed? Well, there's a few ways. If they get exposed to insects, you know, worms and bugs, and also some of the weather conditions, those plants have to create a lot of those defense, you know, chemicals, you know, so they can fight it off. Now we found out when we consume those polyphenols, we actually have all those health benefits from their defense mechanism. So that means when you eat plants that are not organic, then you have less of those polyphenols because they're protected by the chemicals, so then they have no reason to produce those, you know, plant chemicals, you know, to give the bugs away because they're not even coming. So that's another reason why organic is so much healthier than that conventional crap. And so the polyphenols, you can find them in like fruits and vegetables, you know, but you would have to consume, you know, quite a bit. So you're probably better off when you take a supplement such as quercetin, resveratrol, or like cysteine, and yeah, and just consuming in capsule forms. So they're really good in antioxidants, help with DNA protection for your heart, but really what they play a big role is in cancer research because they have shown to have a great effect on cancer, and with all my clients I also add that in the protocol. The next one is nicotinamide riboside, NR, which is very similar to an NMN. It's just a cheaper form because, as you can see here, NR and then NMN, it has attached an extra phosphate molecule, and that's why it's more expensive, because it's a complicated process to add that. Now, it is very similar. Nicotinamide riboside is a derivative from B3 or from niacin. And by the way, if you take, you know, NR or NMN, when you take niacin on top of that, they have shown high levels of NAD in your blood, which is great. And they're very similar. They also activate the sirtuins. You know, when they do the testing to see if there's a lot of NAD in the blood, it actually was. Now, the only difference between NMN and NR was the mice did not have that much energy. That did not overrun the program. That was the only difference. Now, this one is still available. You can still buy that these days. However, NMN, you know, Big Pharma took it off the market because they're making a drug out of it now, a prescription drug, so they can make more money. But again, if anybody, yeah, that's why the NMN you buy online is probably fake. And on Amazon and all over the place, you can't even get that no more. But I have two secret connections I'm working with. So if anybody still wants some, I'll get it for a really good price. And you don't have to, and you can be sure that it's, you know, tested, because this guy here, you know, he is a chemist. So he tested all those molecules to see if they're real. And so I spend money on that, so I know it's real. So I did the testing for you already. All right, next one is TMG, trimethylglycine. Remember we talked about that, you know, for methylation. And this one is like, it's not expensive. Like in bodybuilding, you know, they've been using that for centuries. You know, again, it's an amino acid with 3 methyl groups attached. So it really has great effects with the methylation in the body. Remember the traffic lights. So, and it's not expensive. You take about 1 gram or 1.5 grams, and in powder form, it's cheaper than the capsules, put in your drink, and it works wonders. It helps with, obviously, methylation and all those biochemical reactions, promotes cellular function, DNA synthesis, again, turning genes on and off, regulating the traffic light, and protects the cells from free radicals, and it lowers homocysteines, which is important, especially if you have the MTFHR mutation. You know, your homocysteines are most likely elevated. So that actually would be one of the protocols, right? Get rid of the fortified foods and introduce those methylated supplements to support your methylation. That is one of them because of that. All right, spermidine, that's like my favorite. So as the name already says, it was initially found in sperm, and it's still in there. And no, the supplements, we don't get them from sperm these days, thank God, otherwise I wouldn't take it. They make it now these days from wheat germ. And so that company actually that invented or came out with that was also from Austria. It's quite funny, you know, I'm from Austria, Dr. Horvath invented the methylation clock is from Austria, and those guys are from Austria too. I think we're afraid of getting old or something. So anyways, when it comes to autophagy, let me repeat that again. There's nothing better and more effective than spermidine. And you have to watch out spermidine, because what it really comes down to is the active ingredient of spermidine. If you just buy the regular wheat germ and it doesn't have the spermidine in there, you're wasting it. Now, that one has shown to activate autophagy without the fasting. Now, obviously, if you do fasting, a little bit of fasting and that, then you have even better effects. That one activates the sirtuin, 1, 2, and I don't know why I wrote 3. It's actually 1, 3, and 6. And remember, like sirtuin 1, which is the immune system for our cells, it activates the stress response, it repairs your DNA, and also, repairs and regulates all the metabolic functions. SIRT3 is associated with the mitochondria biogenesis, to make more energy. And SIRT6, that's the one, it's directly responsible for healthy aging. It repairs, your DNA, and it regulates all the cellular processes, internally. And it activates also AMPK and also epigenetic modulation. And this is a good one. It regrows hair follicles. So here on the left you can see, and also it reverses gray hair, has shown. So spermidine actually has shown, and that was not even like why they created it. Spermidine, I've seen so many doctors and scientists talking about this. The question is not what can it do. It's so freaking amazing. The question is what can't it do? Because it has shown positive effects on your entire body, from your heart to from the hair, the eyes. I mean, everything you can think of. It's insane. And the mice, got rid of the gray hair, and also the ones that were losing hair, it started regrowing just by taking that.
Taking that off the market soon too.
Probably. Well, if you want to know which supplements work, go to the FDA and look at the suggested banning list. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. All right, this one I had to add because this one, the last lecture I had was last year, and this one, the study just came out like a couple of weeks before. Taurine is an amino acid that's been around forever, right? But we had no clue that it has such amazing, anti-aging effects. Taurine, is in Red Bull, and it's been in there forever. So what taurine does, and by the way, you can buy that in a powder form, online, and you take like a gram or 1.5, and it's also not expensive. So it helps with anti-glycation effects. Remember the AGEs when sugar comes into your bloodstream and starts glycating, right? And then it starts crystallizing, and then those molecules get deposited in the skin to break the collagen. Well, this one lowers that effect. Oh, I also forgot to say, when you cook, to lower the AGEs, cook with acid, like cook with lemon juice or vinegar, apple cider vinegar, because it has shown when you cook steam it or poach it, right, and you add that, it lowers, the AGEs. That's why I changed my cooking, unfortunately, because I like, burnt steak, but what I learned now, it's not that good anymore. And then also it's a great antioxidant. Also has shown to lower your blood pressure, which is, very effective. Also shown to have neuroprotective effects, nervous system, cognitive function. Also helps with mitochondrial function. It does not create new mitochondria, but it supports it. Also great anti-inflammatory, protects your cells, and also helps with the calcium homeostasis. Remember the CD38 enzyme that regulates in the cells the calcium regulation. So that taurine helps with that process. You can find taurine in every organ in the body, especially in the eye. It has shown that when you take taurine, that it also improves your eyesight and metabolic support. Here you can see a study with taurine. So a study has shown that it improves all your functions, better bones, more muscles, improve your insulin resistance, gut health, brain function, immune system, burning fat, and more energy, just for one simple amino acid, which has been around for a long time, but for whatever reason, one of the university did a study on it, and the mice lived 20% longer. This one has been around for a long time, resveratrol, which you can find in grapes. And before anybody asks the question, yes, it is in red wine, and no, you cannot drink, red wine every day, because you would have to drink like 300 to 400 glasses to get to 1 gram of resveratrol. So you better off, with a supplement. So this one activates, also sirtuins, 1 and 6. Remember, 6 is directly responsible for healthy aging. Sirtuin 1 helps for cellular metabolism, DNA repair, stress response. And by the way, when I say DNA repair, right, I just give you the short version, but what does it mean? That means every time you expose yourself to UV radiation too much, you get burned, X-ray, or any other like environmental factors, you damage your DNA. And the body constantly has to repair it. And so these kind of stuffs, what we talk about when it says DNA repair, they help. Like the body needs raw materials to heal and to repair, right? That's just common sense. And when the body doesn't have the raw materials, it cannot repair and function. Now you have a broken gene and it needs to be repaired, but it doesn't get those ingredients to repair. So now over time, it just makes it worse. And also it's a really good anti-inflammatory, like a really good anti-inflammatory. If you have inflamed cells, resveratrol, works for that. That also great for antioxidant effects, and also that one helps to lower, AGEs. So it's also great for that. What's next? Yep. So that's resveratrol. You can find that in dark chocolate with no sugar, obviously, in berries, but mostly in grapes. All right. AKG. That also has been used in bodybuilding for a long time, but there's two different kinds. There's the arginine, AKG, which does not have those longevity effects. The only one that has shown those effects is the calcium AKG. This one, supports mitochondrial function, antioxidants, and promotes, collagen. So it synthesizes collagen, and also helps with tissue repair and protein synthesis. Here you can see a study with AKG. One you can see the mouse looks like it got, with a fight. And the other one was like treated with AKG. So all these I show you right now, right? I'm not just sapping that out of my butt. I mean, these are all, scientific studies. I mean, I read all of them. It's pretty boring reading them. And yeah, they really have shown, everything I show you now actually works. There's science and proof behind it. And this one is the best one to lower your CD38 enzyme, epigene. It's also falls in the category of a polyphenol. You can find that in some of the fruits and vegetables, but to get to the amount that's needed, better off is a supplement. So remember, the CD38 enzyme starts accumulating as we age and is depleting your NAD. That's why when you get older, you have less and less energy. Now epigene, inhibits the accumulation of CD38, and also protects your cells, improves cognitive function, and also helps with promoting collagen synthesis. But however, the main factor on that one is the CD38 enzyme, because the more energy the body has, the more energy you have to repair and to heal. So it's very important. Next one is longevity peptides. Yeah, the peptides, man, that could be a lecture on its own, and by the way, the government, is about to ban, all those peptides. Again, for the same reason, because they work. So my favorite is epitalon. You probably have never heard about that, but that one was invented by Russian scientists. And obviously, you cannot put a patent on it, so there's no money to make, and that's why you don't hear about it. But epitalon elongates your telomeres. So that one is an injectable form, but like really tiny, like just a little pinching under your skin. You only take this one for about 30 days, per year. Don't do it, all year round. And that one has shown to elongate your telomeres, which has increased your lifespan and your cellular and DNA health. Then the next one is the copper peptide. Now that one comes in many forms. That one comes in liquid, in creams, or injectables. Copper peptide, is really good for hair regrowth, for collagen formation. We have it in our blood, the copper, right? But over time, as we get older, it gets less and less. And every expensive, well, it doesn't have to be expensive, but every good, peptide cream should have the copper peptide in there, because that's one of the best. And then you also have the injectable form. When you inject that one, it kind of burns for some reason. I don't know why, but I've tried it, and you can do only like very little. I'm talking about like 1 or 2 units, which is almost nothing, but still it burns. And that's just to stimulate your collagen, you know, that you get better, you know, skin health. Then I'm sure anybody, oh, thymolene. Thymolene is a peptide that stimulates your thymus gland. Remember, your thymus gland is the housing of your T cells, right? And also the cytotoxic cells that help with fighting off cancer. We have cancer cells growing in our body every single day. Now, the only difference between getting cancer or getting not cancer is your immune system. The cytotoxic cells, you know, fight them off every single day. If your immune system is suppressed for whatever reason, over time, now the cancer cells can grow. Then, you know, eventually it reaches a certain, you know, stage, especially when the cancer is able to get its own blood supply, then it can really grow, and yeah, and then it becomes an issue. But let me put this in perspective. Like during COVID, that thymolene peptide was illegal. It took it off the market. So again, it tells you it works. And now it's back again. They even tried off the market NSC. You know, NSC has been around for 60 years, right? We know it's the number one, you know, glutathione, you know, regulator, activator, and it's a supplement. It's been around forever. Every doctor knows that it has benefits, but during COVID, all of a sudden it's illegal. You know, and Amazon had to take it off the market. And the next one, I'm sure everybody knows, the BBC 157, which is a peptide that's also FDA approved. It's been around for a long time. It helps with tissue repair, you know, especially if you're, you know, elbows for cartilages and stuff. It speeds up the healing process probably by like 40%. That one you have to inject close to the damaged area because it doesn't have no travel agent. That one also comes in a capsule form. And that BC, you know, 157 is made out of the gastric juice. So that's why if you take it in a capsule form, it doesn't have great effects in like healing, you know, the tissue wherever the injury is, but it repairs your gut. When somebody comes to me with gut issue, like serious gut issue, this for sure I'm gonna add, you know, in the protocol, because that really helps with rebuilding, you know, your hydrochloric acid and gut health. Then the next one is TB500, which is very similar than, you know, BB's 157. That one you inject only like once or twice a week. And that one helps you overall, you know, with repairing tissue and stuff. The other one is more targeted. And then the next one is PNC27, which is a great, take a picture and go home and read the studies on that. It literally destroys cancer cells, and it's in research. And right now, I mean, right now it's quite some time, but you know how long it takes. It takes like 10, 15 years until they approve it. And there's a lot of politics, you know, involved if they want to approve it. Because the problem is with peptides, you can't really put a patent on it because it's just amino acids, right? It's amino acids set in a certain, you know, pattern, you know, and creates a peptide chain. There's nothing. Yeah, it sounds scary because you have to inject it, right? But it's really just peptides, just amino acids. And every cell, every DNA, every cell, you know, works with proteins, and they make proteins. So protein is the function of your cells, and that's the company I'm working with. They have really high quality stuff, and I also have a code for that. Again, if anybody's interested in any of those supplements today, give me your email, write it down. I'll send you everything with the discount code, so you don't have to like find out which one works, which one doesn't work. All right, exosome stem cells. Some water. Exosome stem cells, you know, is the latest and the greatest in the sick care system. So the what are exosomes? What's the difference between stem cells and exosomes? Okay, Sherry, let's say I can talk right now to you, but I want to communicate with you. I'm going to send you an email, right? And now you know what to do. Well, the email would be the exosome. Those are tiny vesicles which our stem cells send back and forth to communicate. So the more stem cells, more exosomes you have in the body, the better cellular communication, and the better the body can repair and heal. Now, it delivers, you know, bioactive molecules such as RNA, mRNA, protein kinase, and growth factors. This is the big play here, the growth factors. That's why they can regrow hair and, you know, repair skin. The company I'm working with, they have a gel and they have the injectable form. The injectable form is kind of expensive, I injected it in my hair because mine was like falling out, and it stopped and regrew some of them, but it takes 6-7 months for it to see. Then I tried everything. So that's why I'm a biohacker, because I'm not telling you anything I haven't tried on myself, right? Because just reading it, it's not enough. If I would explain to you how to ride a bike, right, and I give you all the information about how to sit on the bike and ride it, until you sit on a bike, you never really fully understand it, right? And so that's why I don't preach anything I haven't tried on myself. And so I also I did the exosomes injection in my skin. You just do it subdermally. It's very easy. I've done it with some friends. You stay in the skin. I even have a video if you want to see it. And then what it does is, because it's not Botox, it's not a filler. Botox just paralyzes the muscle, and filler just replaces the fat we've lost over time. Those kind of stuff, like exosomes, literally rejuvenate your skin. It stimulates your collagen. On the next side, you see the picture. It regrows because of the growth factors, rebuilds your skin. So that is real anti-aging, because it rejuvenates you. And so they also, like I said, the communication signaling, which is like the email to communicate. And by the way, when it comes to anti-inflammatory, I mean, these are amazing. You don't even need to clean the surface area, right? When I injected my head, you can't use any alcohol, because alcohol kills them. And usually when if you inject anything, everybody's afraid because of infections and stuff. But because it's so anti-inflammatory, I didn't even have to clean my head. I just washed it regularly, and we injected it. You never get a bump or itching or anything. There's absolutely no inflammation, which is amazing. And then it promotes also autophagy, believe it or not, and collagen and elastins, which is amazing, and hair growth. Yeah, I mean, right now, exosomes is the #1 besides what's it called? The surgery where you replace your hair, right? Besides that, exosomes is the #1, the best for regrowing your hair. And here you can see on the left, if you introduce exosomes to your skin, here you can see the fiber, the collagen fiber and the elastins, right? And you can see a wrinkle, which happens over time. But when you introduce the exosomes, the collagen gets stiff again and rebuilds like you were younger. You're literally getting younger. Yep.
I just have to say this, I have to go. But listen, all of you, what David's doing is fabulous, because you're going to have to take back your power, because according to the statistics, by 2025, through depression, anxiety, suicide, burnout, addiction, 47% of the healthcare providers and doctors from those issues will be out of the system. So who are you going to go to? So I'm just telling you that.
And you forgot to mention the vaccine.
Huh? And the vaccine.
Dr. Martin said by 2028, about 80 million Americans will be dead.
Yes, and it's planned. This is no conspiracy theory. So this is time for humans to take back their power, or people, or whatever you want to call it. Now, I'm not being booga, but listen to him, because what he's talking about, if you're not in charge of your own body, you're fucked, because they don't care. I'm just saying it like it is. I used to be really nice and say it's sweet, and people are deaf, but it doesn't work.
No, not anymore.
And they wake up. So just listen to them. Take charge.
Well, don't worry, you don't miss a lot. There's only like 3 more, so.
I know, because I have to set up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. But we will talk.
Of course.
I'm in. Okay.
And here that's C60, carbon 60. We are carbon-based life forms. So when you introduce like, and here on the right, you can actually see the formation, the structure of carbon. It is, this one has shown the longest lifespan in mice. It doubled the lifespan. No anti-aging supplement came close to that. Doubled it. Now imagine that. If it would double us, it would be 160, 170 years old. I'm taking it.
I don't want to live that long. Not when I've seen happen already.
Well, I think that I want to live a healthy, the lifespan, right? Now, if I still can play tennis at 75, 80, that's great. But I don't want to end up like my grandma, at like 75, bedridden. That scares me. Especially here in America, because the healthcare system, I have no family here. Everybody's in Europe. And also, this is like probably one of, if not the best antioxidants. And it's 300 times more potent than vitamin C. So that should tell you something. And it's not that super expensive. I can get you guys that too for like 50, 60 bucks a bottle. You do like 1-2 drops a day. That's all it takes. And then it helps with the reduction of oxidative stress, and it also protects your cells. All right, now let's get to the drug, metformin. Remember, metformin is a diabetes drug. It's been around for 60 years, one of the most researched drugs on the planet. And the WHO lists it as the most essential drug. Not that that means anything, if they list anything, but I don't even know why I said that. But, metformin, so what happens? It's a diabetes drug, a lot of people get when they're pre-diabetic. So it activates AMP, and activates the protein, activated protein kinase, the AMPK. So remember, in order for AMPK to get activated, your energy has to drop. That one can activate it without that. Then it inhibits mTOR, and that's probably the biggest thing, because all those anti-aging drugs on the market, such as rapamycin, they're based on suppressing mTOR. And then it also helps with glucose regulation, which makes sense, right? Because the more glucose there's in the bloodstream, and it cannot get transported, to the cells, and it starts accumulating, that causes, eventually diabetes, type 1 diabetes. And so it helps with that, and improves mitochondrial function, which is the energy of your cells, reduces inflammation, also activates autophagy, healthy, good health for your heart. Also helps with weight management. Why? Because the reason why people gain so much weight is because the body cannot control the sugar. The more sugar, the more insulin activation. Insulin is a fat storing hormone. There's only 2 ways where the glucose can go. Insulin gets activated, attaches itself to the glucose molecule, and then it transports it, into the cell. If it cannot get it into the cell, or the cell's already packed because you're eating too much sugar, well, now it goes into the fat cells right away. And that happens really quick because the sugar needs to get out of the blood, because that's dangerous for the body if there's too much glucose floating around for too long. And that's why when it comes to sugar, that's why our bodies are not made to consume sugar every single day. We're just not, and the fact that we bombard ourselves with sugar, an average American eats about 30 to 60 grams a day. That brings it about to 160 to 180, pounds a year. I mean, our bodies are not made for that. That's kind of like putting the wrong gasoline into a car and expecting a better outcome. It destroys you over time. And then, where were we? Oh, it's also great for cancer prevention. Why? Because it takes care of the glucose regulation. Remember, the more glucose there's in the body and it starts accumulating, and your immune system is suppressed, now the cancer cell can grow because of that sugar consumption. And that's what I'm saying, right? With cancer and stuff, it's not that complicated. We like to label all the cancer different here and there just to confuse you, but there's three things a cancer cell needs. Number one is glucose and an hypoxic area, which means like an area where there's no oxygen or less oxygen, and an acidic environment, right? Now, if you take those 3 away, I mean, that's already half the battle, but it's easier said than done. People always eat shit. And then also it helps with polycystic ovary syndrome, neuroprotective effects, and it also helps with fatty liver. And I'm talking about the fatty liver, not from alcohol, but from consuming too much sugar. And then also, in all the animal studies have shown that metformin, increases your lifespan. And here you can see those yeast cells, those worms. That's how we started to do longevity, anti-aging, because they have a very short lifespan, so it can really show quick if it works or not. And so to finish up, because that's the last thing, if you guys have any questions, did I mention that about the twins with the study in the beginning? I can't remember. Now, all that longevity, started about 40 years ago with twins, and we still use twins these days, to determine if, something works or doesn't work, because they're genetically identical. But 40 years ago, there were two twins that didn't know of each other. One grew up in the city, unhealthy lifestyle, and the other person grew up in an organic farm. And when they found out they had a brother, a twin, after 37 or 38 years, it was like big news, the newspaper, everybody wanted to come together. It's like, wow, this is like great news, right? And when they came together, people were like, whoa, wait a minute, what? Those are twins? How come that one looks so much older and even is balding, and the other one has a full set of hair and looks so much younger? But they're twins, right? They're genetically identical. And that was the first time when we actually looked at it. It's like, wait a minute, can we actually influence, aging? Can we actually slow it down or stop it? The short answer is we can slow it down, and we can also reverse it. I just turned 47, but according to the DNA methylation test, my biological age was on 34. So that means that my body works like a 34-year-old. And then again, that is the real biological age, right? Not according to time. And that's where, longevity comes in. And again, in 10, 15 years, we're going to have, the new technology coming out. It's probably going to be available only for the rich people in the beginning, but it will be out, and you can reverse, aging process. Like with that technology they have right now, you reverse the aging process by 2 years. So every birthday you celebrate, you're actually 2 years younger. And at first they thought, well, it's just 2 years, but then they found out, wait, we can do it multiple times. And that's what they're working on right now. Now that's a reason to celebrate your birthday again. Fuck, like getting younger. All right, anybody has any questions?